and a fuel more prominent than any element in the universe, with drinkable water as an exhaust.
Again.
Fantasy? No. It's a hydrogen car, and it's right around the corner.
We strongly believe that hydrogen
will be the fuel of the future.
It bridges the gap between renewable energy sources and transportation.
But produces no pollution whatsoever, and it can be made renewably without any carbon dioxide production. Hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. About 92% of the universe is made up of hydrogen. I am Chris Bird, and this is my testimony about the future. But we have abundant sources in the form of water, and in the form of hydrocarbons that are under the ground, as well as in the form of grasses and trees above ground.
Well, as we all know from our chemistry classes, water is made up of 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen, H2O.
And in order to separate the two, we need to perform electrolysis.
What this process does is it takes that molecule and splits it down the middle into its component parts, the hydrogen and the oxygen.
The hydrogen is separated and then captured as a gas. But how does this elusive fuel work in cars?
To get full use of hydrogen, you need a fuel cell car.
A fuel cell is essentially the reverse of an electrolysis process. That way you combine hydrogen and oxygen and generate electricity.
Would you have hydrogen stored on the vehicle in fuel tanks, much like you do today with gasoline, but hydrogen instead, and you take air in like we do today from the atmosphere, you will generate water and electricity in the fuel cell. The water goes out the tailpipe into the atmosphere, and the electricity goes to an electric motor, which turns the wheels around.
But if the sole purpose of hydrogen fuel is to charge an electric motor, why not just drive an electric car? What is the advantage of a fuel cell?
We can go further and we can recharge much faster because you just have to refuel, which can be done in about 5 minutes.
That's compared to an overnight charge for an all-electric vehicle. Not convinced? Take a look at the hydrogen chassis of the future.
This is the skateboard. This platform is highly flexible. Depending on the type of vehicle, we could change the length or the width. We could make it out of steel or aluminum or high-strength carbon fiber composite.
It's all housed inside here. Hydrogen tanks, fuel cell reverse electrolysis system, and 4 independent wheel motors.
The fuel cell generates electricity directly, unlike an internal combustion engine. And that electricity allows us to electrify other vehicle systems, like the brakes and the steering.
So the hydrogen-powered platform is a self-sustaining power plant for your car. But believe it or not, your future hydrogen car will also power your home. The fuel cell generates excess power that you can sell back to the grid.
Most of the time your car is parked. In fact, we only use our car about 10% of the time. This gives us an opportunity to actually use our car to create energy that can be integrated into our utility grid. I'm Larry Burns, Vice President of Research and Development and Strategic Planning for General Motors. So this ability to use your car to create power really changes the role of the automobile from being simply a form of transportation to now being a mobile power platform.
So thanks to the hydrogen charge, while your car is parked, it can actually provide electricity to your home. Sold? Oh, right. There's that one thing. Hydrogen fuel is not a bomb. We don't include plutonium in the tank. Hydrogen didn't cause the Hindenburg disaster either. That was due to the ignition of highly flammable iron oxide and aluminum on the dirigible skin.
We forget the fact that when oil-fired cars first came in, many newspapers ranted and raved and said, "This is dangerous. You're going to be driving on top of a pile of gasoline. Any kind of car accident would make your car go into flames, and who wants to have a gas pump every few miles?" Well, that's the world of today. We do have a gas pump every few miles, and when we have a car accident, we do have to worry about the car going up in flames. Now, in a hydrogen economy, people say the same thing. Hydrogen is a flammable material, and so is gasoline, by the way. So it has to be handled safely. Now, one of the differences between the two is that hydrogen is a very light gas.
So in many respects, hydrogen is safer than gasoline.
Hydrogen safer than gasoline? Believe it or not, yes. Hydrogen takes more pressure to combust, and it burns at temperatures that wouldn't burn your skin. But perhaps most importantly, because hydrogen is lighter than air, a leak diffuses completely upward. Gasoline spreads on the ground, creating more ignitable area. Still, as with gasoline, storing this volatile fuel is a top priority.
The tanks that store hydrogen are extremely strong and robust, even more so than gasoline.
The hydrogen tanks built into cars are made of incredibly durable polycarbonates and sit in the center of the chassis, away from impact. So, while hydrogen safety is ensured, creating and distributing it cheaply to the consumer has been a major challenge. Until now. Welcome to Norway, where they've been getting hydrogen from water for almost 80 years.
Hydrogen is not an energy source, it's an energy carrier. So the primary input is electricity, which has to be generated from something.
You can make hydrogen from coal, but then you would have hydrogen and carbon dioxide, which is, of course, the planet gas.
If we can use energy that's made renewably, then we have a perfect solution.
At futur, we developed our own electrolysis process back in the 1920s, based on what is known as alkaline electrolysis.
This process is essentially the same one we have been using since the 1920s, but it's been optimized and modernized several times since then.
We take electricity from the grid, but where we have made sure that the electricity we buy is actually from renewable electricity. We put electrodes into water and hydrogen comes out. We put them on the car and the only emissions are water vapor.
Now, wouldn't it be nice if that hydrogen could be made right where you fuel up, rather than expending more energy to cart it around? Well, the Norwegians have an answer for that as well.
What happens here is top secret.
And then, fill her up with the most powerful source in the universe, the sun.